16, I ate a cooked piece of thigh meat off my girlfriend Sherry Wilkes. Back then she was Sherry with an I, with a heart for the dot when she could get away with it. Now she's Sherry with a Y again, nearly 20 years later. I can still see the girl she was at 14 though. It's the eyes. All the women in her family have the same look. I ate a piece from her, she ate a piece from me. We never had sex either, maybe because we didn't have to after that. It was like we'd gone out of order, skipped the tenderness, gone straight to the part where we consume each other. We didn't make it long after that Thursday night, both our legs gauzed and bleeding. Not because of shame or regret, and it wasn't that awkwardness that follows the kind of intimacy we'd shared either. I think it was that we could see the dim shape of the next step, the next stage. The one that would leave us dead in our separate rooms, our suicides planned down to the minute, our bodies abandoned, like to prove we were meeting somewhere else. Screw this town. My leg turned up infected later that week. It was dinner. I remember green beans, but not whatever the main food was. And I was eating with one hand, my other on my pants leg, worrying that tender flesh of my thigh. Because my chair was right by my dad's, he was the one to pick up I was hurt, the one to ask me about it. I blurted out the first and most obvious thing that could explain a bite like that taken out of my leg. I told him it had been James Redemaker's dog. James had lived on our street for 2 years then. When his brother didn't come home from the war and his house was too empty, his mom argued his case for a dog. It was a lanky Irish setter, could clear the fence when it needed to, and it needed to a lot. I don't remember its name, or maybe it's buried in my head somewhere, I guess. Just every time I go looking for it, I want to call it by James's dead brother's name, and then I stop trying to remember anymore. Because this is the way it was in my town, the way it still is. My dad finished his dinner that evening after seeing the bloodied leg of my jeans he paid for. Then he took 2 beers from the refrigerator, held them together by the neck so they clinked the whole way down to James's. The 2 fathers drank their beer, discussed the matter in a way that made them squint and not look at each other, but really, the decision had been made the moment my dad said their dog had bit me. Mr. Redemaker backed his truck out, dragged James's big red dog into the bed, tied it to the spare so it wouldn't jump out and brain itself, and he and my father drove out past the city limits where he couldn't get in trouble for firing a gun. I don't remember the dog's name, no, but I remember James watching his father's taillights fade into the dusk, then looking over to me, my leg bloody with a love pact I would never tell him about. Sherry's leg never got infected. That's because she went first, probably. We loved each other, see? Not like I love my wife, Alice. How I love Alice, that'll last until we're old and gray. It's already taken us through lost jobs and late nights, and it'll take us through hospitals and alcoholism and whatever else it needs to. Because it's a love that's quartered with muscle, a love built to last. How I love Sherry, though, Sherry with an I, that was white hot. Some nights, alone in my room in 9th grade, I thought it was gonna burn me up, leaving nothing but a pile of ash on my sheets for my mom to find. When we whispered forever to each other, it wasn't a promise, it was a dare. Now I know we weren't good for each other, of course, like healthy. The rational part of me knows that if we'd somehow managed to stay together in spite of ourselves, then, even at our age, there'd be domestic disturbance calls once or twice a month. And that would just be the part of our relationship, making it into the public eye. Behind closed doors, I don't know. We would eat each other up. I guess it's as simple as that. It's better we stopped where we did, I can't deny that. But I also can't deny that one night, 2 14-year-olds locked in a type of one-upsmanship love that neither would ever feel again, that they did something they could never take back, that they would never want to take back. It started with a lie about the Thursday night junior varsity basketball game, the one we were each going to with different friends, not with each other. Instead of that game, they walked out into the woods with a knife, with a coat hanger, with a roll of gauze to play a different game. They weren't holding hands, they weren't smiling. Love, it can be grim. It can be so grim it hurts. They walked out just past rainy headlights but cut through the trees, and then they set their implements down and caught each other's eyes, like to see who would blink first. Neither of us did. Sherry had worn shorts. She's always been smart like that. Because it's what the doctor did for vaccinations, I rubbed the spot on her thigh she'd already traced with a ballpoint pen. "You were supposed to bring alcohol," she said. "My mom would have noticed," I said. She was sitting down and I was sitting lower, taking a knee like Coach always said. This is how people propose and get proposed to. When she nodded yes, the collar of her shirt pulled up into her teeth to bite. I blew on the pale skin of her thigh, then carved into it. The same way when you're eating watermelon with a spoon, you go in a little, then scoop that red meat back up. My scoop was more ragged, but before the blood rushed in, it left the same kind of crater. And Sherry, she screamed. I would too, but it was through her teeth. It was through how hard she was biting into her shirt. She had the gauze balled in her hand and pressed down right when I was done, pressed down like trying to squash the pain away. The bite of her thigh I had in my palm was deep red and the muscle had striation to it, and one side had her skin still and some peach fuzz on it, just enough. I held it in my hand while she carved on me, my pants pulled down to my ankles. Right before the blade went into my muscle, that was what I was worried about, how stupid I must look standing there in my underwear. Because she was a more delicate eater, she ran the fine edge of the blade up and down before cutting to shave the few long hairs off. It really did feel like a dog bite, one that wouldn't stop, one I couldn't beat away with my fists. We were both crying by the time it was done. This is how you know it's love. The next part was easy. We just skewered the 2 bites under the coat hanger, roasted them under her lighter, taking turns because it kept heating up, burning our thumbs. We laughed because it was stupid that thumbs could matter after what we'd done to our legs. I didn't want it to, but the peach fuzz on the bite of her thigh, it curled up and smoked away. Next, just like we planned, we split the meat off and we fed it to each other. I took the bite she offered all at once to show how little hesitation I was having about the whole thing. But Sherry had been raised better. She took one bite, her incisors just brushing the sides of my thumb. The meat was still red in the center. She swallowed, then took my wrist in her hand, guided the rest of the bite in, her eyes locked on me the whole while. When we limped out of those trees, we were different people than we'd been. It was nighttime now. Everybody was at the basketball game, watching the JV team lose again. There was no one to witness our transformation, no headlights to throw our shadows tall against the trees, no deer or raccoon considered us, then scurried away. The mosquitoes didn't make the tunnel for us to walk down. Maybe James's dog barked, I don't remember. Probably he did. He always was that fall. Really, by pointing him out to my dad, I was letting the whole neighborhood get some sleep at last. This is the thing you tell yourself alone in your bed after lights out, when it's too quiet to ever sleep again. The reason I was the one to get infected, I figured, was that Sherry's blood was on the blade. I couldn't have cleaned it with a lighter, though. You don't clean the blade if you love someone. And I didn't throw that piece of her up either. I've never thrown it up. One dusk, I walked into the mystery and the muscle of love, and I came back from that darkness holding a girl's hand, and I kissed her lightly on the lips before we parted ways, my fingertips to her hip, and I was aware of her musculature in a completely new way. The divot is still in my leg, the cavity, the well, the tip of my middle finger knows so well. Sitting at my desk, I can rub my finger into it through my pants. Alice says it looks like a weakness in the muscle. I don't let her run her finger down into it, of course. I was a traitor once to James. I won't be to Sherry. Because our town is small, I still see her once every couple of weeks, more in the summer. As near as I can tell, she doesn't wear shorts short enough to show her scar, and I never see her at the pool, and I stay until dark some nights. There's a couple of girls there, though. One's named Claire, the other's Clarissa. Girls with names like Sherry with an I, they do things like name their daughters with the same letter up front. Their eyes are just like their mother's. When they break the surface of the water after a dive, it's like Sherry's rising all over again in slow motion. And their thighs, high up on their thighs, dusted with golden hair. Some days I have to close my eyes. And some days, when the pool closes because night is sifting in, some days I collect my towel and my lotion and I turn left after walking at the pool gate. Left, not right, which would be towards my house. There's 2 girls jumping from line to line of the sidewalk in front of me. They're walking into the darkness. The older one's 8, the younger one's 6. I'm just following them to keep them safe, I tell myself. in my mouth, it's not watering, that would be wrong. Like love knows the difference.